Hey guys, so for your Tier 2 small group this month, I have for you a classic one. This is my Wiggle Worm Self-Control group. So this is a self-control group for primary students, so we're talking like K to grade 2. And let's talk about why you should even be doing a self-control small group with primary students, because you may be thinking, that sounds terrifying. And I know how you feel. It can be a little overwhelming. But what it does is we're teaching the kids self-control while practicing the strategy. So that's why I love this group, because it's not like theoretical, like let's talk about what self-control is and what it looks like. And no, instead we're actually giving them strategies that they're practicing during group. Like all of the icebreakers are applicable self-control strategies. So that way, after each session, they have a concrete coping skill that they can go back to class with. Believe me, the teachers will thank you for this, right? If they refer someone to you for self-control, they don't want to wait 8 weeks to see results, right? So they love that they're getting these small applicable coping skills that they can implement right away. It's also proactive and preventative. So by doing a small group at this age, the kids are learning skills that they can use for years to come, right? So, a lot of times we get self-control referrals in upper elementary, middle school, maybe even high school. But by doing it at this, primary age, we're giving them those coping strategies and that language they can use for self-control that's really going to benefit them later on the road. So here's a sneak peek of what it looks like in action. As you can see, it's, childish. It's perfect for those primary grades, very visual and interactive. So each week you'll have a weekly outline. So you have some ASCA standards there, as well as an objective for what you're going to be doing that week. So for example, week 1, the objective is to share the feelings in a group setting and to define self-control. So these are little guys. We want to keep these manageable objectives, right? And then each outline has an outline of what to do. So it'll say, okay, do your group rules and your feelings check. Then you're going to do this icebreaker, talk about the poster, do a self-assessment, and do an activity. Or each week's different, right? But it gives you a step-by-step of exactly what to do, so you know what to do. And there's a group rules and feelings check poster included. So there's a rule, you can use these rules, or you can have the kids come up with their own. And I've talked about this before, but the kids are sometimes like, no hitting, no screaming, no punching, no kicking. So instead of writing like all of those down, I'm like, yes, I agree. Those are great rules. Why don't we write down, be respectful and be kind? So in my head, I kind of already have the rules, but I'm letting them, give their input, and then together we'll write the rules as well. And then the feelings check poster. So, at the beginning of each session, have the kids sit in a circle. You can use a talking piece if you want to make sure they're talking one at a time, because remember, this is a self-control group, so that may be a struggle. And the kids are going to identify how they're feeling and why. So you can model this for them, and I encourage you to be transparent and honest while you're modeling, so you don't have to always be happy. You can say, oh, today I'm actually feeling a little frustrated because of this, or I'm feeling sad because of this. So by doing that, you're giving them permission to express their genuine feelings as well. And again, this is little kids, so we want to be visual. If they have a hard time with the sentence structure, they can simply point. You also want to model it a lot of times so they feel comfortable. Now, each week you're going to have an icebreaker. So like I said, on the outlines, it'll tell you which icebreaker to do when. But I have this little icebreaker sheet just in one sheet. So instead of, having one with each session and wasting a ton of paper, I just have it really concise here and easy for you to use. So you can just grab out that icebreaker sheet and you're going to have it in every session. So some of these, they're so much fun. And this is what I was talking about. By doing the icebreaker, they're learning about self-control, but they're also like practicing self-control strategies. So first up is freeze dance. So you're going to play some crazy music and let the kids just go crazy and dance around, and then you stop it and they have to freeze. So for some kids, this is going to be really challenging, right? They're like still going crazy after the music stops. And that's when you point out, oh, self-control is, stopping because we said to stop. Another one is Winston Worm Says. So Winston the Worm's kind of our little mascot for this group, Wiggle Worms. So this is basically Simon Says, but you're just saying Winston the Worm Says. So, hands on your head. Winston the Worm Says, touch your nose. Winston the Worm Says, jump up and down. Hands on your head. And then you're like, no, Winston the Worm didn't say it. So that's a fun one always. The stoplight game. So that's where it's red light, green light, basically. So they're running in place. And then when you say green light, they run faster. If you say yellow light, they run slow. And then red light, they freeze. So that's like a 3-part listening skills, following directions. Really helpful for these guys. And then we have the self-control bubbles. So I love this one. The kids, you'll have them sit in their chairs or on the ground, and then you're going to blow some bubbles, and they can't pop them. So they have to try their hardest not to pop them, even if it lands on their nose. So this one is really tricky. The kids like it a lot. Then there's a sequence challenge. So this is another following directions one. So you'll give students a sequence of directions to follow, like run, pat your belly, hop on one foot. And you notice I'm doing a lot of running. You can totally go outside with these kids. Don't feel confined to your office, weather permitting. And then you want to make the directions gradually more longer or more difficult, and that way it's more of a challenge, right? And you can see, wow, which one of the students can really follow these directions. Then we have a candy weighting game, so you can do candy or another reward if you don't feel comfortable doing candy or if there's allergies in front of each child, and they are going to show self-control throughout the group session. So during the whole group, they're not allowed to touch it, and then at the end, if they don't touch it, then they can get 2 pieces of candy or 2 of the reward. So it's really fun. It's a weighting game. You can even show them that video of like that marshmallow test weighting game. That's a really popular one as well. And it's just kind of cool to see which students are struggling with this more than others. Then there's an opposites game. So you're going to give students directions to follow, but they're supposed to do the opposite of what you say. So this one really requires some listening skills. So if you say jump up and down really fast, they're supposed to jump really slow. And if you say wave your right hand, they're supposed to wave their left hand. So it's just, again, listening skills, following directions, and showing self-control and restraint. And finally, self-control orchestra. So this is when each student has an air instrument, like an air guitar, air drums, whatever, and you're going to hold a ruler or something similar and kind of conduct the orchestra, and then they're supposed to match your speed. So this is fun. So if you go real fast, they can go real fast and crazy, but if you go real slow, they have to go real slow. So it's a cool way to get the kids, again, listening, following directions, practicing restraint and self-control. Now to the right, you'll see that self-control poster. So this is a poster we want to introduce in the first session, but then I encourage you to print it, hang it in the office or wherever your group's meeting, and refer to it during each session. Then of course we have our data tracking tools. So I love to use self-assessments, even with the little guys. So don't be too intimidated by these. It's a 5-question format, so super doable. And you may be thinking, well, my kindergartner students or my first grade students can't read well. No worries. Sometimes I'll read these aloud, so I'll give the kids clipboards and they can go to different parts of the room. And then I'll read the first one and they circle yes or no. Second one, they circle yes or no. Or if you want to do it a little different, you can have all the kids working on one activity, it can be something simple, like a coloring sheet or a puzzle or something, and then call them up one by one and say, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions. Tell me yes or no. And sometimes they circle the or as like a maybe, and that's totally fine too. You want to encourage them that these are not, graded. There's no right or wrong answer. We just want them to be honest. And there are group completion certificates. So this is something fun that this group has for the little guys. At the end of their group, they will get a little certificate that they can go show off to their parents or to their teachers. So let's break it down week by week on what's included. So first up for week 1 is what is self-control. So again, you're going to do those icebreakers each week. I'll tell you, when to do which icebreaker. That'll be on your outline. So these are the main activities. So the main activity for week 1 is a simple sort. So you're going to cut these out, hopefully print in color, and then you can laminate them so you can reuse them time and time again, because this is something you could even use in like an individual session with a student as well. But then they're going to sort the cards in 2 piles. So you're going to have, pictures of students who are showing self-control and pictures of students who are not showing self-control. Then you're going to look at their piles and go through them together. Like, oh, well, you put this, guy sitting happily at his desk as showing self-control. Great job. Why is that self-control? Or this kid throwing a block when he's angry, that's not self-control. Why is that not self-control? What could he do instead? So you can have those deeper conversations. You'd be surprised even at this age level. For week 2, the topic is why is self-control important? So why does it matter? So this is a social story. You guys know I love a good social story. So this is about our little mascot, Winston the worm. So you're going to read the story about Winston, and then you're going to roll the die. So you'll cut this out and assemble it, roll the die, and the kids will answer the questions about Winston, like what advice they would give him, if they've ever felt like him, when's it hard for them to show self-control. So it's really cool. It checks through their understanding of the story, but then it also makes the application to their everyday life. And that's why I love social stories, because it's a really cool way for students to externalize the feelings and the actions to someone else, right? So they don't have to, if you just sit down and say, hey, why do you struggle with self-control? They're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and they go blank. But if you tell the story about the worm and then you're asking about the worm, then they can understand better at this age. Week 3, so this is choices and consequences. So this one's cool. They're going to cut them out and paste them on another sheet, the different scenarios. So, for example, you accidentally break your favorite toy. You could kick the bucket. That would be your choice. And then your consequence is you have to go to like a timeout. Or you could help clean it up. And then the consequence is that you feel happy and proud of your choice. So I offer these in black and white as well. So if you don't want to print in color, you can totally color them in or have the kids color them in. And here's a better look at it. So again, they're cutting these and they're pasting them on the corresponding boxes. They're putting the two different choices and then the corresponding consequences. So this may be challenging for the kids. You can do this, you can like lead an example one, have the conversation, especially if we're dealing with like kinder here. Say, okay guys, this picture of the girl kicking the other girl, this is the first choice. Let's paste it on the first choice. And then they all paste it on the first choice. If they're a little older, maybe second grade, this could be something they could do, working as a group or independently. For week 4, this is self-control strategies. So this is where we introduce the good stuff, right? We've talked about what self-control is, why it's important, why certain choices have consequences. Now let's learn to, stay in control, and that's through strategies. So there's a bingo game. I love bingo. So you're going to print out the bingo cards. The kids get the free space, and then you have these bingo deck cards. So you're just going to draw them out of a hat and say, read a book. And then as you can see here, there's the word read a book and there's the visual of read a book as well. So they can put both on there. If you have students who are, struggling with reading, you can, of course, help them with this part. And then you'll put the bingo deck card back in the hat, and you're going to keep drawing them until someone gets a bingo. And then these characters may look familiar for week 5. We're continuing with self-control strategy. So I have the, same visuals to keep it consistent for the kids. But this is a sort and paste. So this is for, no right or wrong answer. This is for the kids to try. They get to determine self-control strategies they would like to try and self-control strategies they do not want to try. So maybe listening to music sounds like it would be helpful for them. They would paste that in the first column. But maybe reading a book or getting a drink of water doesn't sound like it would be helpful. They'll get that in the second column. And then you can discuss, share as a group. Oh, it looks like you picked these and you picked these. Why or why not? So here's an example of this activity in action. So they're doing some cutting and some pasting. And again, I, assuming you have like 30 minutes for a class session, for a group session, I know that these kind of activities can be a little time consuming with the little guys. So that's why you have that simple icebreaker in the beginning, and this is your whole focus for the session. So you should have like 20 minutes to work on this, plenty of time. For week 6, we're talking about self-control in action. So this one is a coloring sheet. So they get to color the worm who's showing self-control. So there's 3 different scenarios. Then they color what the worm should do when he feels angry. So they get to select a coping strategy. And then they get to color how the worm will feel if he stays in control. So this is a fun coloring sheet, but it also has them doing that critical thinking piece. Week 7, so this is a really fun game. What you do is you're going to have the kids sit in a circle. They're probably already sitting in a circle at your desk, and you're going to start a conversation. So you're going to say, okay, right now we're going to talk about our favorite foods. And how it works is if they go in order talking about their favorite foods, then you've laid out a card. I like how you're using self-control. If someone cuts in line or tries to jump in front of the other person and talk, or if they get distracted and they don't want to listen to someone else and they're, who knows what they're doing, jumping up and down or coloring or doing something different, they're not going to get that. I like how you're using self-control cards. So As this natural conversation is going, you're just observing the behaviors you like and placing those cards down. And then the student who has the most cards at the end wins, and you can give them a little prize if you'd like. And finally, week 8 is a self-control review. So this is where they're kind of writing their own self-control social story, and they're doing some coloring on here. So here is a picture of it in action. So it's saying sometimes I feel frustrated or angry. It's okay to do that, but it's not okay to hurt myself or others or property. So then on the right-hand side, they can draw pictures, or they can talk about how they would like to use a coping strategy when they're feeling angry. And that's it. That wraps up week 8 and our entire Wiggle Worms self-control small group. So I hope you guys love it. I hope your little ones love it and learn some great self-control strategies.